All right, so hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee with SamPaul. I'm back at my my regular, the Front Page Cafe at South Plympton, and I'm joined today by a singer-songwriter by the name of Callum Drage.
Hello.
Callum, how you doing, my man?
Good, thank you for saying the name right.
I did practice beforehand. We rehearsed it. Yeah,
You did well.
Because that's very important to me to get the names right. So,
yes. And this is SamPaul.
Yeah. Good man. Like we've really been rehearsing hard.
We have.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
All good. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you to Jodie Atkinson for putting me onto you because
thank you, Jodie.
It's great networking.
It is, and also I speak of networking. I wanted to say it. I said it briefly before, but I wanted to say it on camera. I like the idea of the show that you do it at local cafes and kind of get that community thing going because I think,
thank you, man.
Especially after COVID, it's good to like showcase little pubs or cafes or whatever you're doing it at and just do it. And also it gets people out of the stigma of fear of being in public and doing this kind of stuff because like there's actually nothing to fear. Like, look, no one's doing anything anyway.
Yeah, exactly
It's a great idea.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
All good.
All right, so the reason that I wanted to catch up with you is because you have just released a new album.
Yes.
So let's start with the title. What's the album called?
The album is called Lonely Heart, and it has 9 tracks, and it's predominantly pop rock influenced, but there's a bit of other things on there,
cool.
Like psychedelic and ballads and maybe some hip hop as well, I'd say.
Oh, nice.
So
there you go.
It's got a nice little mix of everything.
So Callum Drage, Lonely Hearts.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that already. So I'll get the link off you and we'll put that in the description so people can suss it out. Cool. I'm guessing you're on the streaming services.
I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube, and all the other ones. But they're the main ones. So
yeah, they're the ones that everyone uses. Yeah,
absolutely.
Excellent. So tell me, how long have you been doing this? And I guess sort of what got you into music? I mean,
well, I've been doing music since 2018, like properly writing things. So this album I started in 2018.
Okay.
And it's just been 5 years, and I only just finished it in May. So it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
But what got me into music was probably my whole life. Like my grandparents live in Port Pirie, so up there you can blast music really loudly because he lives on a huge farm.
Yeah.
So I was always surrounded by AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Jack Black, Fleetwood Mac, Jack Black, Tenacious D.
Yes.
There we go.
I thought so.
They're so good.
Yeah.
So I was always like around the kind of everything from like 50s onwards. I've like always just loved.
Awesome.
Although the Beatles, controversial. I was never into the Beatles. Oh. So sorry, Beatles fans. But
okay, well this interview's over. No, I'm only kidding. I respect anyone.
Honestly,
so,
I respect all music, but the Beatles were just never something that I could understand. But that being said, I probably just lost a million people. But whatever.
Hey, if you lose people because of your personal opinion, then well,
they're not worth it anyway. Yeah. So I think listening to those types of music just embedded it into me of the love for it, because I got to hear like musicians work as a band, and I saw that, you know, it was about working together and the interaction with the crowd, and that was really inspiring to me. And then it wasn't until 2008 or something when I watched the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, and I heard Evanescence and in that movie, and it's not the greatest movie, it's not the worst movie, it's not the greatest, but listening to Evanescence's My Immortal and Bring Me to Life it just opened up a whole new world, and I was like, alright, this is what I want to do. So then I listened to that, and then as time went on I just found more and more people like Powderfinger, Miley Cyrus, Adele. So my music ranges is everything. So
I was going to say, there's quite a mixture of artists. I'm very much the same, like when it comes to music artists. If you looked at my record and my CD and my cassette collection, like it's just a lot. Everything.
I'm surprised you still have one. A lot of people don't have those anymore.
Oh, well, I mean, some of them I've actually had since I got them, and some of them I've bought, gone digging in record shops and secondhand stores and that. But I'm really getting back into vinyl myself, like particularly. And cassettes was kind of like an unintended thing. So
you can really get like the different sound.
Yeah. You know what's really funny though? Listening to cassettes, the audio quality of those is actually pretty damn terrible. Like I've got an old tape deck, and like it's got a tone knob that's the EQ between more bass and more high end, basically.
Yeah.
And it's one or the other, basically. You can't go either way, any other way, like it's one or the other. And even with it turned right up to the high end boosted and the bottom end dropped, it's still very muffly. Like it's actually quite terrible, but there is something nostalgic.
It's like you hear all the cracks and pops and everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice, you know, because it's so clean on Spotify and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of appreciate the more vintage sounding things. That being said, a clean sound is pretty good. Like, you can't get over a clean sound. But
do you know what I think it is, though, why there's been such a resurgence in cassettes and vinyl and that, is digital is becoming, like, so perfect, and we as people are not perfect.
No.
So I think there's a certain amount of, like it doesn't kind of gel with a lot of people without them necessarily knowing why it doesn't gel with them.
It's kind of funny you say that, because before I released the final product of this 9-track album, I was releasing singles.
Yep.
I released the first 3 songs as singles, but when I released, so the first 3 songs are Deja Vu, Ambitious and Lonely Heart.
Yep.
They're also the first 3 singles. And I released demo versions. I now call them demos, but at the time they were just the versions. And they sound underwater. And the whole time I was like, this sounds so not perfect. It's not good. I can't release this on the final thing. So I made the decision, after doing 2 more songs that were studio done, I made the decision to go back and redo the other 3 and get them sounding the same. So that's why it took so long, because I had to go back and redo things, remake the beats, all that kind of stuff. So it's funny, because we're just talking about imperfection, and my music was imperfect and I kind of liked it, but now listening to the final copies, I enjoy the perfectionism of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I just wanted something that sounded polished, but I amend that, because I am always telling people, when you meet them somewhere and they ask how you are, don't just say you're well if you're not. Like, say you're not good, and then it opens up discussion.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you.
And
I love that.
Yeah, I was at a party on Friday night, and I said to someone, they asked me how I was going, and I said, no, I asked them how they were going, and they said, yeah, I'm good. And I was like, no, you're not. And they're like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, well, I'm not good, so do you want to talk to me about why you're not? Because I can tell you're not. And then they went, look, man, I gotta be honest, I'm not good. And then the person next to him said, neither am I. And I was like, see what I mean? Like, we are just saying we're good if we're not. So then it opened up this huge discussion, and everyone felt better at the end of it. And I was like, this is what I live for. I live for
100%, man.
Getting honesty out there and not being fake. So I amend the perfection of the actual sound quality by, in the lyrics, I'm talking about my imperfections the whole way through.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, and like, but they're done so in a motivational way, to be like, I'm not perfect, but I am still, that makes me perfect in a way.
Yeah,
because
perfectly imperfect.
Yeah, and I'm happy with that. So,
you know what, I absolutely love that, because I'm a big fan. Like, when I first started music myself, I was, I got described by people as an angry young man, you know, because I'd describe these bad situations, but what
in your music, or just in your music?
In the music, yeah, not in person. I've always been a pretty happy, positive guy, but in the music, it came out whatever I was dealing with. But what I realised is that I can still talk about those sort of topics, but then put them in a positive light. So one of the first tracks where I did that was a track I've got called Fall Down, and it was basically about falling down in life, getting knocked down in life. But I put a spin on it by saying, but you can get back up again. You know what I mean? It's not about what's happening to you, it's about how you deal with it. And I think that kind of sounds like what you're...
I think that's an interesting thing as far as rap is concerned, because rap or hip-hop is what you're predominantly in. Yeah. And there's a lot of, my life's been hard, man, and that's hard. Yeah. And I'm rough as guts. Yeah. I like the fact that you're saying you like to go, life has been hard, but I'm choosing to look at this more positive moment. Exactly. And spin it. And that doesn't mean that every song has to be positive or every song has to be negative, but I like the fact that your goal isn't just to spread how hard things have been. Exactly. It makes listening to music a lot nicer when there's that balance. Yeah, 100%. Now I have to ask, because I mean, I don't know, I should have probably asked before we started how old you were, but you don't look like you're, you know, like, how old do you think I am? I'm curious. I'm guessing sort of somewhere in your 20s. Okay, so with that in mind, that works really well with my next question. So what I wanted to know is 21. Oh wow. Well, okay, I was thinking kind of maybe mid 20s, but 21. You definitely, I mean, not that you look 20, like mid 20s, but
I was kind of erring on the side of caution.
No, it's good. Always be on the side of caution.
So where I'm going with that is, so I grew up in an era where albums were king. You know, artists release albums were everywhere, and then you might have a couple of singles come out off the album, but it was all about the album, right? About the journey, the whole masterpiece of music. Whereas these days, a lot of artists, particularly of the younger generation, are all about singles. They're pumping out single after single after single, and then if you're lucky, they might put them all together on a release and say that's an album, but it's not a cohesive album because it's just been a bunch of singles. You've obviously created an album, and I'm just curious as to what drew you to do that, given the fact you're kind of growing up in a generation where it's all about the single.
Yeah, it was a great question. I did a podcast with my brother a while ago, and he asked me the exact same question, and I said people don't listen to albums anymore. They don't have time for it. So I'm really thankful my album is getting 826, or more than that, 63 listens, because albums don't get listened. But
awesome.
This has. So I'm very happy. So what drew me to make an album? It was always going to be an album. After I wrote the first 4 songs, I was like, I was looking at all the songs as singles, and I was like, these are good, but they tell a story when you put them all together. So I was like, it just made sense for it to go, and I think it made each song better when I put it all together in this track list, and it goes in this order that I was instantly in love with. It wasn't hard to make it a track list because it just made sense. Yeah. So we begin with like this song. There's dogs here now, so it might put me off.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Again, community feel, it's great.
Yeah.
The album begins with like Deja Vu, which is like telling the story of I've been in bad places before, but I can get through them. And I know exactly what I need to do to get through them. And I know I've done it before, so I can do it. The next song, now that we're not going to let Deja Vu take hold and we're going to make those changes, is about being ambitious and like, okay, now I know where I want to go, so I'm just going to go and do it.
Yeah.
And that was very inspiring to have those 2 songs back to back, because it told this story. And then we kind of take a break and go into the 3rd song, which is about something a little bit different. But I thought I like the positive, sad. Yeah. Positive, sad. Like kind of effect. That's kind of the way it goes.
Okay, nice.
And it goes in this emotional journey of my life from like 5 years old all the way up to 2020.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And you know what? My biggest takeaway from there, and I love this fact that there's young guys like yourself coming up, young musicians, I should say. It doesn't have to be a guy. Young musicians coming up that are doing that. The journey. That to me is what it's all about. Everything to me is about a journey. Like people talk about happiness being a destination, but to me, happiness is the journey. If you spend all your time going for a destination, you're missing the journey, which is
I always like to say, I don't chase happiness, I chase contentment. Because happiness is fragile, it's not forever.
Yeah.
Anger is not forever. Contentment, I think, can be forever. Like you can choose to always be content. But happiness is a feeling that will go away. So is sadness. But I still agree with what you're saying as well. Happiness is not the end goal, because you're always going to keep moving. So
and you know what?
Something to appreciate when it comes.
Exactly. And you know what? On the journey, if we don't have the sadness and the darkness and things like that, we would never appreciate the light and the happiness, because you need that contrast to really appreciate. You know, how would you even know you were happy if you're always happy?
Literally.
You know,
it would be great to always be happy, but then again, would it?
No, I don't think so. Because I don't think anyone would appreciate that. You know. But yeah, really quickly, I just heard you mention your brother's podcast. Can we just give them a bit of a plug?
Malleable Minds.
And where can they find that?
Spotify, I think, and you can listen to it on podcasts as well, like on the app podcast.
Okay, yep.
I think that's it.
Malleable Minds.
Malleable Minds.
Yep.
I can send you a link if you want.
Yeah, please do. We'll chuck it in the description.
He's been talking to all different sorts of people. I'm trying to think. He's speaking to a few health professionals, some musicians, some friends who just talk a bit of smack and stuff like that. So that's not my saying. That's my uncle's saying.
Okay.
That felt weird coming out my mouth, but I said it. So yeah, he's really good at what he does, and he's very passionate about it too. So
cool. I'll definitely be checking it out myself. And
he's one of my biggest inspirations. Just saying. So
fantastic.
It's cool to have
and
a brother.
So, would you say that the album is somewhat like an autobiography, like you were saying about the last 5 years of your life?
Well, it's an autobiography, but I think unlike books or movies, where I think music is probably one of the most biased forms of storytelling.
Okay.
Because you can make 20 songs about one thing that happened to you, and you can do it from all these different angles. So I try not to take music as fact because it's not. That being said, there is a lot of truth in all my music. I always try to give the most honest perspective I can on things. So I would say it's an autobiography, but that being said, it's just my perspective of all these things. And in fact, the third song, I said, Lonely Heart, is about someone who we had a bit of a falling out, and then this person listened to the song, texted me and said, is this about me? And I was like, I've got two options here. I can either say yes or no. And I said yes, and I opened up this conversation, and now we're doing better than ever.
That's amazing.
And the song is really about, in a way, screw you. Like, you got a lonely heart, you're battered and bruised, and I'm not coming back to you, kind of. And now, funny enough, where I saw them last weekend. So
that's amazing.
And so it's very cool for me to kind of, that's my goal with music, is to open up conversation.
I was going to say, I'm picking up on that. Like, I think almost everything you've mentioned, it all comes back to opening conversations about, difficult situations, difficult topics, and I love that. I'm all about that. That's my whole mantra for life. Is finding the difficult topics that resonate with me and making a way to bring them up. Like I've got my nail. I've never actually mentioned this on camera, but for those that can see, I've got my nail painted. That's an organisation in Melbourne called The Polished Man, and every October they do a monthly thing where they encourage men to paint their nail like that and raise money for violence against women and children.
I love it.
And so the idea about the actual nail is to open that conversation. Now I do it all the time, every day of the year, because I figure, why wait for 1 month to open that kind of conversation?
Exactly.
It's a difficult thing to talk about.
Same thing with like Pride Month, and it's like every day should be Mother's Day, Father's Day. Every day should be a celebration.
Exactly. We don't need a special day to celebrate or to bring up.
Only your birthday. I think birthdays, Christmases, and Easters, they're fine. Everything
birthdays
else,
could be a week, I reckon. Birthday week.
Christmas week, please. Yeah. Birthday week. I'd probably get. See, I love attention. I love attention, but I also hate attention. It's this weird juxtaposition thing where
I totally
don't know what I
man.
want. So, I found, because I used to do more live shows, I used to be very comfortable doing live shows, and studio work would make me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now, because I've done so much studio work, live shows don't feel as comfortable, and I feel like I'm soaking up attention, and it makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm trying to work out how to go about that and just do it more, I think. But where I was going with that was something about the
You're a
nail.
bit like me like that.
Yeah, I just...
Tangents.
Talk,
yeah, no, that's good. I love it.
Where was I going with that? Something about the nail. But
conversations, difficult topics.
I don't remember. But the point is, I really appreciate the fact that you're being open about that, because so many men in particular don't want to wear nails or nail paint or anything. But
which is why I think the focus for that particular organisation is on men doing it, because it's not a common thing.
Yeah.
I've been asked by so many people. I work at the fruit shop just near here, as I mentioned here earlier. I've dropped off my son to his mum's house before, and I've had the question, have you got your nails painted? And I'm like, well, no, it's just one. Oh, why? And then I get to open up and tell them, it's about raising awareness of that. And
you don't have to do it every day. I mean, you can do it every day.
Yeah.
It eliminates that just for this 1 month.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting the organisation. I think what they do is wonderful.
Yeah.
And obviously, they've got other commitments, so they can't do it all year round. But for me, I'm taking what they're doing and running with it,
Yeah. The only one I refuse to do forever is No Nut November.
Sorry?
No Nut November. I can't do that forever. But anyway.
It's funny, because I've never really been able to grow much of a beard or moustache, but at the moment I seem to be doing all right, which is great because it's winter and it's keeping my face warm.
Yeah, dry July is also hard, but...
Yeah, well, see, I'm dry all the time, pretty much. Yeah, I don't I very rarely ever drink.
That's very good.
Although that being said, I've just recently been having espresso martinis because I bought an espresso machine.
Got to even it out.
So, but it's like one drink, every now and then. It's not like, for me to do a dry July wouldn't make sense.
Because you just do that all the time.
For me, it'd be more like a drunk July.
Has that been for?
For most of my life, to be honest. Yeah, I've never really been.
I'm curious.
I've just never really been a drinker. I guess I'm what a drinker would call a lightweight. And I don't like the feeling of being too out of control.
Yeah.
So
I'm second that. I've been drinking a little bit more recently, but it's also I don't ever get drunk because I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think it's boring, and when you wake up the next day and you got a hangover, it's just not worth it.
No.
So maybe every 7 months you can go wild, but the last time I did that, I woke up and I was like feeling awful, and I'm like, it's just not worth it.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to stay relatively sober for the most part.
I'll respect that,
Still have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Hey, and that's not to say I've got anything against people that do like to drink, good on them, but the number of people I know that drink like way more regularly than I do, they're always like, they wake up the next day and they're, I'm never drinking again. And it's like, and if sure enough, like a week or two later, boom, they're doing it again. It's like, well,
I've got the same issue.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want, don't say things if you don't mean it. Like, you can say things.
Would you say what you mean?
Say what you mean. But then again, I always say things and then backtrack. So,
hey, look,
I'm figuring it out. I know what I want to be doing. So I'm trying to work it out as I go.
You know what? At the end of the day, though, like if you say something now, and then the next day or the next week or the next month you say something that somewhat contradicts it, you got to remember that's a week, a day, a month's growth from that day that you said it. So you've learned. We're dynamic people. We're not always going to have the same opinion our whole life.
Same thing as I said with the music is you say one thing in one song and it tells one story, but then you could have the exact same scene scenario, but you're coming at it from the different perspective.
Exactly.
So.
And there's also an artistic license, in any kind of art, particularly music. Like you were saying before, it's not a autobiography as such. There's truth in there, but it's not completely all,
There's 2 or 3
detailed
sides to every story, and
you've
only got yours.
Exactly.
And so that makes it interesting.
Yeah, 100%. So tell me, do you have any live shows or any video clips or anything like that coming up that we can share?
I've got a party that I've been asked to perform 2 or 3 songs at, so it's not really a live show, but I'm excited to do it. As again, I feel quite uncomfortable doing live shows at the moment, so I want to start small and kind of build my way back up to feeling confident like I used to. And also, it's just about finding my voice again. Like I hear some of the things I do live and I go, I'm so used to doing things in a studio that when I'm up on stage and hear myself directly out the mic, I'm like, it puts me off because I'm just not used to it. It doesn't have all the effects. Not that I try to use many effects, but it doesn't have all those little technical corrections. So you just hear it raw and you go, it's weird. So after that, though, the hard part is finding a band because...
Okay. You don't want to just do solo?
Well, I can play piano, I can play guitar chords, but I'm not good enough to go up and just do a whole set just me and a piano, and I wouldn't want to because my interest is performing and singing, and I feel like if you're sitting at a piano or doing a guitar,
hello, you're right.
Hello, you're so cute. If you're doing all that, you don't get that interaction or whatever. So
fair call, man.
But finding a band is so hard because you have to make sure they're available when you are. And then they have to be just as willing to do it as you are. And then also, music is about sharing and collective, but I've got these songs, I'm very passionate about those songs, so I want to perform those songs with some covers, but having a band, they will have their songs that they would want to do, and it's that give and take. So it's a whole lot of things to think about when you're
Yeah, completely understand, man. I mean, anyway, so thank you so much, Callum, for being on the show.
That's okay. Thank you for the coffee.
Oh, my pleasure, mate.
I'm going to finish it. But
but yeah, we'll get some links from you and put those in the description of the video so people can check out your music and stay in touch with what you've got coming up and all that. And thanks to Front Page for putting up with me again, because they make good coffee and they're always very accommodating down here, which is why I keep coming back. And yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Have a good
Peace.
day.